Now, we've already seen some pretty cool concepts from this year's LA Auto Show, and this is definitely one of them. This is the Hyundai 7 Concept, and it's the latest member of the electric Ioniq sub-brand, and it's built on Hyundai's electric global modular platform. It's a pretty big SUV, about the same size as the Palisade, and the idea is to preview a production model set to go on sale in 2024. What I want to do in this video is talk about the design, of course, show you the front, side, and rear, let you know what I think about it, what I like about it, and also some things that are pretty weird about this concept, the overall concept and the philosophy of this SUV here. There are some things that are pretty weird to me, more on that later in the video. The 7 Concept has the same awesome, cool pixelated graphics mixed with a large, smooth surfacing intersected by a few sharp key lines, exactly what I like, and that's also some things that we've seen in other Ioniq concepts previously. For example, you have that in the Ioniq 5 as well. The cool thing about the Ioniq 5 was that the concept, they took almost 100% of what the concept was and put that into production, and we're gonna see if they can do that here with this design as well. I don't think so, because there are some crazy stuff going on here we're gonna talk about when we jump into Photoshop. As mentioned earlier, this 7 Concept rides on Hyundai's dedicated E-GMP platform, which is already in use in productions in cars such as the Ioniq 5, the EV6, the Kia EV6, and the Genesis GV60. This is a long vehicle with a wheelbase measuring close to 10.5 feet, and this is all thanks to the electric platform, of course. This allows you, not having an engine and transmission, it allows you that you can put the wheels out in each corner of the car and really stretch out the wheelbase, and usually that kind of looks a little weird when you look at the proportions. You can tell that it's an EV. You can tell that electric cars usually are electric based on how far the A-pillar stretches almost in front of the front axle of the wheels, and also how far the wheels are stretched out to the corners. However, with the 7 Concept here, I think it hides it very well, and it's a very good looking, stunning design. On the inside, this is where things get a little crazy. You have 3 rows of seating, which is fully customizable layout featuring swiveling lounge chairs in the front, and you also have sort of like a sofa or a bent or a curved bench as a 3rd row. Now, what I dislike about the interior here, and where it gets a little weird for me, is that the driver steers the 7 via a retractable control stick or a joystick or something like that, which I'm not a huge fan of. So the thing about cars like this is that I don't want it to move away from the drivability of these cars. I don't want to be transported in my own car. I want to transport myself in my own car, and I want to drive it. More on that as a final thought in this video. And there is also a built-in mini fridge, which is alright to have on the interior, I guess. And then we have some interesting things like as a shoe care compartments that refresh passengers' footwear, according to Hyundai, and they didn't want to elaborate on what that means, but I have no idea. That's up to you to interpret what that exactly means, I guess. Now, the craziest thing, and the thing that I'm not sure I'm a fan of, I probably am not going to be a fan of if anything like this would ever to happen in a production car, but that is that the panoramic OLED screen, it can display whatever content you want, and in the promotional video here, it's on TikTok or in some social media. Can you imagine driving the car with a massive TV on top of your head that displays TikToks all the time, constantly as you're driving? To me, that sounds like an absolute nightmare, and I would rather have a star-lit ceiling or something like that. That brings me closer to nature, and that's also something I want to elaborate on a little later in the video. The connection there between this Hyundai 7 Concept and nature. I think they're supposed to be connected, but there is a mismatch there in some way, which I'm gonna talk about in a minute here. Hyundai also fitted something called the hygiene airflow system, which separates the airflow between the front and the rear passenger, almost like you have on a commercial airliner, and it's also sanitizing UVC lights that clean the interior as the passengers exit the interior. I don't know if that's a little bit overkill, you know, having it super clean. Germs are actually good for you, it builds up your immune system, so having it clinically clean everywhere, I don't think that's the right approach to the future of car interiors. Shouldn't be an issue, because we still need to have some sort of germs around us to build up an immune system, and having UVC lights cleaning the interior as the passenger go out, not sure what the idea is there. The range for the 7 here is supposed to be around 300 miles, and you can charge it from 10 to 80%, as we've seen in many EVs, in about 20 minutes, so it's pretty good and pretty standard these days, I would say, for the EVs. And as I said, this is a preview of production model that's supposed to go on sale in 2024. Now let's have a look at the design here. Let's talk about the front view. What I love about what Hyundai is doing right now is they are killing it with their design, and not just the concept cars but also the production cars. And the cool thing is, remember the 90s and the 2000s, Hyundai was the most boring brand when it comes to design. It was the most bland. It didn't have an identity. Everything was melted cheese. If you want a definition of melted cheese, that was Hyundai in the 90s and the early 2000s. Look at what they're doing right now. They're leaving the competition behind, except for Kia, which is going to be my next video here on the channel. We have to talk about the Kia EV9 concept as well. But look at the pixelated style in the front end. This is fully customizable, obviously. So you can do whatever shapes, you can light up whatever pixels you want here in the front. And this is what I've been talking about. We have clear graphics in the front end. We have a very simplistic rest of the body, of the car design of the body right here, the proportions and the styling. But we have separated graphics that really hammers in the identity of the brand, which is Hyundai in this case. So there's no mistaking that this is something else than a Hyundai because of the graphics in the front end and this pixelated approach, which they basically almost trademarked by this point. So I want to show you the rear as well. It has this massive pixelated frame here, and I think Hyundai is doing a great job with using these graphic features in a very simplistic way, but it still creates a super strong identity. And these pixelated things continue right here onto the body of the car. You also have a little bit of graphics down here, as you can see. I'm going to show you that in side view when you see the length of this thing. And this seems to be a full transparent rear window or something like that. I'm not sure if that opens or how this works, but it looks pretty cool. You can't mistake this for anything else but a Hyundai when you see this specifically at night. It's gonna have one of the strongest identities ever, I guess, when you see these lights light up in the middle of the night, all these pixelated things like a video game from the 80s. Here we have the side view. So this reminds me a lot of the Genesis styling right here, specifically when we have this line here that dips a little bit right here and then it never goes back up like this, like a Bentley shoulder or something like that. Very Hyundai, very Genesis-like approach to this design. And as we've seen in other Ioniq concept, we have one line that cuts into the body either right here, or we have the Ioniq 5, I think, cutting something like this that has a very similar design to the new Elantra as well. So simple graphics, simple surfaces combined with some cool, unique graphics. That's what Hyundai and Kia at the moment is all about. And I really like the approach here from Hyundai to put this concept on display, even though I don't think that we're gonna have I don't think this is gonna go into production. These lights, these LED pixelated lights, not as headlights at least, maybe as position or fog lights or something like that down here. That could probably work. And also this bar right here, this might actually work in production. It's all about regulations and stuff like that. That's not my expertise. But in the rear, you don't have to have a beam. You don't have to have a headlight that lights up the front, so you can actually have them be only less of a sophisticated light source than the front headlights, obviously, because they have two completely different functions. So I'm not sure if this actually would work into production. I would love to see it into production, and I don't want to see a TikTok TV as a roof in production. That would be absolutely horrible, as I said. So what the thing I think here about the 7 is the contradicting part is these cars are supposed to be connected. They're supposed to be recycled material. They're supposed to be manufactured with recycled plastics and stuff like that to build up the interior, and that's what they've done here with the 7 concept. But at the same time, it feels like when you're inside of this, you're supposed to be more connected with nature, but all the features that a lot of features that you see in these new cars, I feel like they, instead of connecting you with nature and the thing that you're supposed to save by manufacturing cars like this, which is the environment and nature, instead they're adding this barrier with these type of screens and the technology that sanitizes the entire interior. To me, that disconnects me from nature more than it connects me to it, even though that's what these manufacturing methods are supposed to help save, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's just my thought here when I saw specifically this promo video with the TikTok massive 70-inch screen in the ceiling. It's just crazy to have something like that on the interior. But disregarding that, I think Hyundai is definitely on the right track when it comes to design. We've seen that for the past 3 or 4 years now from Hyundai. They're really stepping up their design game. I've said it to a lot of times before. If I was a designer, I would fly over to South Korea and get a job with either Kia or Hyundai as a designer, because it looks like they're having a lot of fun designing these cars, not just the concept but also the production versions.